What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show Recap with Mo, where we're getting ready to get into a brand new episode breakdown of Tyler Perry's Ruthless. But before we get into this thing, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit snit that's going down, alright? So the episode we're getting ready to get into is for season 4, episode number 19, titled The Ticking Clock. Now the synopsis for this episode states, Aaron's sudden appearance at the sheriff's office has immediate repercussions. Ruth warns the other women that Joan is not to be trusted. Dikahn makes a surprising discovery. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this thing. All right, so we kick this episode off with Cal bringing in Aaron. Now, as we recall in the previous episode, Aaron had just came off in that thing. He was calling across the street, from across the street. You know, I don't know how he was calling, but he was informing them that he was afraid to come in because of the crooked law enforcement officers in that building, right? And he was warned not to show up there. So that's why he called from across the street, all right? So anyhow, you know, both Sheriff Conley and Mac are standing there like, what the hell? What is going on, right? So, off the rip, Aaron is going off on both of them, but more specifically on Mac, because Mac was the one that did that boom boom on the deputy right in front of him and then handcuffed him and placed him inside of the trunk, all right? So, going on from there, both Cal and Desiree is like, hold on. What are you saying? And Mac is like, he's obviously crazy. He's obviously out of it. He's obviously on some drugs. He was putting everything out there, obviously, right? And they was like, yeah, but go ahead and say what you're trying to say. So Aaron goes on. He proceeds to tell them that he overheard the whole conversation with Mac and the sheriff, how he was supposed to have the Rakadushis come and pick him up from the trunk of the car and all of that good stuff. And then he goes on to say how Mac put Tutu inside of, Deputy Kate or whatnot. Now, we still don't know what has come of her demise, but, it is what it is at this point. Maybe she's not, or maybe she is, but I guess we'll find out shortly. With that being said, it has hit the fan. And unfortunately, Mac cannot take it because he unalives himself right there in front of everybody. Now, it was strange. As hard as Desiree was going in on him, when she saw that go down, she called his name out and she was actually running towards him. And I was like, damn, like, is this another relationship, Desiree? Like, something you want to share with Kyle? But anyhow, going on from there, though, I just hoped that it would have ended differently for Mac, but it is what it is. So anyhow, going on from there, like, everyone is frozen, like complete froze right now because of the whole situation that just went down with Mac. And you see Desiree is all upset and she's like, Mac, and Aaron is like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just didn't mean to cause any trouble. Like, yeah, the hell you did. Like, yes, you absolutely meant to start some trouble. When you came off into the sheriff's office and you saw Mac across the way, you said, he the one that did it. He's the one that did it. He was the one that did this and did that. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So, yes, you absolutely meant to cause some trouble, all right? So, anyhow, Desiree's like, no, kid, it's not on you. Let's go on outside. So, she instructs that somebody takes Aaron outside and and as sure as she says that, Sheriff Conley's like, no, I'd take him out. And Aaron hearing this is like, oh, absolutely not. Like, I ain't mean no trouble, but no, I'm not going anywhere with you, right? Because you in on this as well. So now Desiree them are sitting there like, what the hell, like, for real? Like, go ahead and do tell, right? So, Aaron goes on to tell them that he overheard him having a conversation with Deputy Kate, talking about, no, don't take me to the police station, actually take me up to the hunting lodge and all of that good stuff, and just wait for him to show up so he can, do what he needs to do, right? Because, the sheriff's office wasn't a safe place to go to. So now Kyle and Desiree are both looking at the sheriff, and he was like, look, I don't know what he's talking about. He's obviously delusional. He's been out there in the sun too long. Just let me go ahead and take him outside. Like, what you going What you gonna do when y'all get outside, Sheriff? Like, anyhow, so Desiree is like, okay, go ahead and lock him up. Because obviously, we're not gonna get to the bottom of this until we start getting some answers. So go ahead and lock him up for safekeeping. Let's do what we need to do our due diligence here. And then let's go ahead and escort Aaron outside. But Aaron is not hearing that. He's not going outside because his main concern right now is his wife, Laura, who's still at the compound. So he asks Desiree, so what are your plans about getting her out? Desiree tells him, or tries to reassure him, that they're going to get her out, but you need to just be patient. Currently, right now, we're still waiting on, the warrant to be processed so we can actually go up there. He's like, look, we don't have time to wait. We got to get her out, man. We got to get her out. And they're like, look, bro. That's all I could say. Like, we are the professionals. Just trust us to get this job done. So I can understand Aaron's standpoint. Like, at this point, Aaron has done everything possible to stay within the legal system. Like, he's done what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to go seek help from law enforcement officers, and they turned out to be backstabbing individuals who was out there working for the other side. So I can understand his distrust for Desiree and the rest of those working along her side, right? So we get all of that. So going on from there, we head back over to the compound where we see the Highest and Dikahn. Now, they are observing this recently delivered safe that, the Highest, with all the money that he got around, he has to keep it safe. So Dikahn tells the Highest that this safe is fireproof. The Highest is like, oh, that's good. And he was like, it's state of the art. Oh, that's very good, right? And yes, hear me, it is the best safe that money can buy. And the Highest is sitting there like, oh, that's real good. That's real good. But yet and still, there aren't any instructions because they can't find them because Manny took them earlier, right? So, of course, Dikahn is pissed off at this moment. The Highest is like, well, I mean, what's going on? Like, why do we not have the instructions? So Dikahn decides to call in one of the guys that actually delivered the safe. And he's asking him all of these questions about, well, did you see anything, strange? Did something fall off of the safe? Like, did somebody touch the safe? And old boy is like, no, we actually delivered it as you asked us to do. We never touched it, did any of that, right? He leaves out the fact that he actually stopped at the gate and allowed Manny to check it out as well. So he did not convey that information to Dikahn or the Highest. So, of course, being pissed off at this moment, Dikahn is like, go ahead about your way. We'll talk about it later. Well, the Highest is still standing there, of course, and he was like, look, it's okay. It's okay, Dikahn. Don't worry about it. Of course, Dikahn is still upset, but the Highest is mellow right now. We're good. Just go to the back room, go ahead and get the hotspot, the Wi-Fi, and then we can just look on the internet and we can find out the instructions. I mean, it's just that simple. So, of course, Dikahn goes to the back, and while he's back there, he's not able to locate the hotspot. So the Highest conveys to him to go over to the finance trailer where the hotspot is, retrieve it, bring it back to him. But before he gets done with all of that, he also wants him to go over to the punishment trailer to check in on their guests because he plans to take Malcolm to the next town over to give him access to an online site so he can pull up their records. He wants to know everything that they have on him in the compound. So going on from there, we head outside of the Highest's trailer where we see Manny. So when Dikahn comes out, Manny can tell that something, has him flustered right now. And, initially, Dikahn really doesn't want to say anything. He's just upset because of what just went down about the whole safe. He wants everything to be perfect for the Highest, and he wants to feel that love from the Highest, right? So Dikahn goes on to tell him that these fools, these idiots, have lost the instructions to the safe. Now, of course, Manny knows exactly what happened to the instructions, but of course, he's not saying anything. He's keeping that under wraps, and Dikahn is like, but we'll figure it out, right? Dikahn also tells him that he needs him to locate River and send him to the Highest, right? So going on from there, back at the sheriff's office, we see Aaron and Desiree. So she informs him that his father and her bosses, along with herself, are working on a warrant. So she's still trying to reassure him that everything is going to be okay. So just calm down. Well, that doesn't seem good enough for Aaron. See, he's showing his privilege at this point because he wants answers, and he wants answers now plus results. So what is your plan? Like, if your plan isn't good enough for me, then we're gonna have to work that out, right? So she tells him that, look, we're just pretty much waiting on the warrant so we can get word on what to do from here, and then we'll have the people from DC, we'll have a unit from DC come in and do what they need to do, like a strike force or whatnot. But in the meantime, what else can you tell me about this place? He was like, well, how much time do you have? She was like, I want to know everything, and I do mean everything that's going down at the compound. And he was like, okay, bet. So from there, we head back over to the compound to see Dikahn coming into the finance trailer. And we also see Joan working in the trailer as well. So she apologizes for how she responded and overreacting and all of that good stuff. Dikahn tells her that he needs, the hotspot. Now, she initially thought that he was talking about another hot pocket, right? Like another hotspot, right? And he was like, no, I need the hotspot to the internet. She was like, oh, okay. So from there, Joan is like, well, unfortunately, the hotspot is actually locked in this safe. And, the only person that has that information is the highest. And of course, it makes Dikahn feel some type of way, of course, because I don't know if it's jealousy at this point or if he's just tired of the ripping and the running for no daggone reason. Like, why did you have me come all the way across here when, you already had the stuff that I needed to get to the hotspot? I'm trying to appease you, but at the same daggone time, I'm feeling some type of way about you because I feel like you're not giving me the respect that I deserve in this situation, right? So, of course, he was like, okay. And he walks up out of that joker cool as a mug. But you know who's fretting right now? Joan. Joan is upset. Joan is nervous as hell because she don't know what the hell to do, because she knows if they get in that safe, they start to look around them numbers on that internet, that something is going down, and she doesn't know what to do. And we getting ready to see a new side of Joan. Lord have mercy. So going on from there, we see Lewis and Ruth. Now, Lewis is conveying to Ruth that the prisoners got away. Ruth is sitting there like, yeah, I know. He was like, what? Yes, I know. I actually saw him leave under the fence. Like, there was a hole in the fence. He got up out and ran off. I saw where he went to. He was like, and you didn't tell me anything? She was like, no, I really didn't think nothing about it, because about time he gets to where he's going, we should be going, right? And Lewis is looking at her like, okay. Now, are you sure about that? She was like, yeah, I'm sure. And then he's like, well, what about your daughter? She was like, well, I actually know where my daughter is. I don't know the city and the state, but I know she's at a hotel. I know all of that good stuff. And he was like, well, how do you know that? And she tells him that the highest conveyed that information to her as well. So he was like, are you sure you want to go through this? She was like, yes, definitely, right? So anyhow, going on from there, while they're still in the midst of their conversation, here comes Joan running up out of the finance trailer, and she's telling Ruth, girl, we got a problem, girl. And Ruth is like, okay, like, now what? Daggone it, y'all all got problems around here. Am I the person that got to fix every daggone thing around here for everybody? First Lewis, then River. Now I got to fix the stuff for Joan, right? So what's good? Joan looks at her and she's like, well, you got to promise me you're not going to get angry, that you're not going to get mad. And Ruth is like, look, girl, like, go on and tell me what's good, what's on your mind. And Joan is like, well, he wants to access the hotspot. Ruth is like, okay, what's so bad about that? Joan goes on to tell her that, he's going to want to see the names on the account. And of course, Ruth is like, okay, what the hell? Like, what's the problem with that? Like, you did what you were supposed to do, right? And then Ruth looks at her and she's like, well, unless you got something else to tell me, alluding to the fact that you're not telling me every daggone thing, but you talking about we working as a daggone team. Long story short, Joan ain't who she been pretending to be, y'all. Joan has bamboozled us all. Because I'm like, hold on, who is this lady right here? Who is it? Like, Hoppo, who is this woman? Like, who is this woman right here? Because, listen, Joan used the MF word. She was sitting over here talking about you got to do what you got to do to make it work for you. And I'm sitting up here like, this is not the Joan. And then she finds herself in this sunken place and she pulls herself up out talking about, ooh, bad language, bad language. So, of course, she and Ruth have a stare off, and then all of a sudden, Joan just walks off. And she was like, you best to do what I said do. So I was like, oh, damn. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man, it caught me off guard, man. I actually had to rewind it back a couple of times just to see it in action because it was so good, man. And so anyhow, going on from there, we head back over to the sheriff's office where we see Cal escorting Sheriff Conley back to the jail cell, right? And we see Andrew back there sitting on the bed, and he's like, what the hell? Like, what you doing back here? And then Andrew asked Cal what was the noise that was out in the office, right? And Cal was like, what, you don't know what a boom boom sound like? And he was like, yeah, I know what it sounds like. And he was like, well, your man Mac is no longer the Mac. He's on his back, right? And he was like, you kidding me? And he was like, well, you can go ahead and ask Sheriff Conley about it. He'll catch you up to speed on what's going down. And he was like, man, I can't believe that. And then Cal is looking at him like, oh, you really putting on for real. Like, you didn't know he had anything to do with none of this? He was like, no, man, I didn't. I honestly did not. And I was like, darn, he had me fooled for a moment. So anyhow, going on from there, Sheriff Conley goes on to tell Andrew that Andrew told them that he was in on everything, and that's why he's locked up currently, right? Andrew was like, hold on, wait a minute, are you talking about the little white dude with the funny looking eyes or whatnot? Sheriff Conley was like, yeah, that's him. Andrew was like, no, man, he would vouch for me. And of course, Sheriff Conley's like, what are you talking about? He was like, look, he was on the compound when I was locked up in chains. He would have known that. He can vouch for me. And Sheriff Conley's like, man, you can go and end that, man. They already got enough intel right now to sign, seal, and deliver this case at this moment, right? All they need is that warrant to go down to the compound and do what they need to do. Because even in this instance right here, Andrew ain't no fool. He knows that potentially they could have bugged him, placed a bug inside the room or whatever they needed to do. Because now at this point, he's talking like he don't know nothing about what Sheriff Conley is talking about. He was like, well, at least they caught your dirty ass. You see what I'm saying? And Sheriff Conley's like, what are you talking about? Like you acting like we not both in on this? And Andrew's like, nah, man, I don't know what you talking about. I don't know what you talking about, man. So you on your own. But then Sheriff Conley's like, well, I've heard some things about you as well, son. And he was like, what are you talking about? What have you heard about me? And he was like, well, I heard how you got down with the highest off in that trailer. And I got to be honest with y'all, that I believe that caught him off guard a little bit. But of course, Andrew had, something to, fall back on, stating that it wasn't him, that the photo was doctored and all of that good stuff. But Sheriff Conley was like, no, bro. Photos speak 1,000 words, and you were definitely speaking 1,000 words within that photo. So anyhow, going on from there, man. Next we see Ruth and River. So River comes over to Ruth and he's telling her that they got away, talking about the prisoners. And Ruth is telling River, like, you need to calm down. But River's like, look, man, they're going to bring the popo off in here, and we ain't ready for that. Plus, we ain't got the money. So she was like, look, just calm down. She tells him that, everything is good. The highest has a prophecy tonight. He's going to convey to the people that he has this hotel that he's purchasing and all of this good stuff. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ruth is good. She knows where her child is. She doesn't know the address and none of that, but she knows that she's in good standing. I mean, at least as far as she knows, right? But before she ends this conversation with River, she asked him, if he would have left with Peter and he had the money at the same time when he had left. And he conveys to her, like, no, I would have never left you. Like, I promised you from the get-go that you and me, we make a perfect team and all of that stuff. But of course, Ruth does not believe him. So while they're in the midst of their conversation, here comes Manny. Now, Manny is asking River, like, where the hell you been? Like, where have you been at? And he was like, man, I've been asleep. And he was like, well, the highest is looking for you. So he was like, you need to go ahead and head over there to where he is, right? So, of course, from there, we head back to the highest's trailer where we see the highest in Dikahn, and the highest is now giving Dikahn the key and the combination to the safe over at the finance trailer. Now, he tells him, once you get done with all of that, go ahead and head over there to the punishment trailer to check on our guest, because if he's still alive, that good that I gave him earlier, we're in business, right? And he was talking about that magic. Some of that ooh-wee, right? So, he was like, I will get on that, your highest. So, going on from there, we see River coming in, and the highest shares with him the brochure about the hotel, telling him that the children are there. It's going to be the most beautiful place. It needs a little work, but it's going to be great, right? And of course, River is sucking it all up like he hasn't heard this before already, talking about, oh, this is fantastic, your highest. Oh, when are we going? When are we going? And I was like, oh, these folks are liars. They liars and deceivers. So anyhow, going on from there, we head back over to the finance trailer where we see Dikahn is now coming back through, and while he's there, he has this little sidebar conversation with Joan. So he asked her, was there anything that she wanted to tell him before he went and opened the safe? And of course, she's nervous at this point because she really doesn't know what he knows, what he doesn't know. So she was like, no, there's nothing I need to tell you, nothing at all. But she really wants to say something. But of course, Dikahn, with all of his stupidity, gives her a life raft. Because when he utters the words out of his mouth talking about, you got feelings for me, he gave her something to hang that lie on. Like, shut the heck up, allow her to tell you what she needed to tell you, and you would have gotten what you needed. But of course, you opened your lips and put something out there in the atmosphere, and she bit on it. And she said, yes, I got feelings for you. And then she started to play into it. And then for Dikahn to turn around and talk about, well, unfortunately, I don't like you like that. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, my God. So anyhow, going on from there, y'all, we head over to the kitchen where we see the three musketeers, right? We're talking about Laura, Lacey, and Zane sitting over there trying to put their heads together while they're cooking in the kitchen, right? So in walks Ruth. Now, Ruth comes in, and she was like, look, I got to tell y'all something. And of course, they all lean in. And she was like, we need to be tighter. Like, we need to be on high alert because we're getting out of here. And of course, they're like, what? And she was like, her husband got away. And of course, Laura's like, how did you know that? Ruth tells them that she just heard it around and about, right? So, Zane is like, look, River was attempting to leave us here. Like, he was not being truthful about what he had stated earlier. Ruth is like, look, I was never going to leave y'all, all right? And she talks to Zane directly, and she was like, have I ever been one to lie to you? Zane shakes her head, no. And I was like, ooh, boy, these folks are lying in here. So anyhow, Ruth is sitting up here telling these girls, like, we need to stick together, we need to band together so we can get up out of here together. But she doesn't believe that because she already knows that she has a plan over here with Lewis and George where they getting paid. Bump Joan, bump River, she's going to get paid and she's going to get her child from that hotel, wherever that child is, right? So Ruth isn't truly trying to build any alliances here. She's just building upon lies. That's all she's doing, just to get to where she needs to get to by any means necessary, which I get when you're in desperate measures. You got to do what you got to do, right? So in this situation, it is what it is. We're just going to leave it at that. So when Ruth leaves, in walks the elder mother. Now, elder mother is coming in right after Ruth to tell the girls, to instruct the girls to do what they need to do. Lacey doesn't have her chains on, so she got to get her chains back on. So she instructs one of the ladies in the trailer to do that as well. But while she's in the middle of instructing everybody to do this, do that, and do this, in walks Bridget. Now, we all know what happened over in the punishment trailer with Bridget and Ruth when she got them hands put on her for what she was saying out there on them streets, right? Well, them compound streets. So anyhow, when she gets in there, the elder mother is like, what's wrong with you? And she was like, oh, nothing, nothing at all. She was like, tell me. And she was like, look, whatever I got to say, I will tell to the highest. She was like, no, you would tell me. And eventually Bridget tells her that she was beaten up by Ruth. And of course the elder mother wants to know why. And of course Zane and Laura, who are standing nearby, overhear Ruth's name being mentioned as well. So they're standing nearby to hear what's going down. So the other mother is like, tell me. And she tells the elder mother that she saw Ruth talking to one of the men. Now, of course, the elder mother's like, which man are you talking about? And she says, I saw her talking to Lewis. Now, Zane, hearing that, comes over and she was like, she's lying. And of course, the elder mother's like, what? And she was like, yes, she's lying. She's jealous of Ruth. And she's sitting over here lying on Ruth. And then Zane turns to the elder mother talking about cutting out her tongue. I was like, what? Are you... she's going in on him. And then not only that, here comes Sister Laura to back it up, because now two people are saying that she's lying. And the elder mother's like, we definitely got to see what the highest got to say about this, right? And that's pretty much how this episode ends, because after that situation, we immediately head over to the punishment trailer where we see Dikahn coming in to check in on the prisoners. And I was like, oh, hell no. Now, you know, as I know, ain't nobody in that daggone trailer, though. So, of course, Dikahn is like, where the hell are they? And he walks up out. And I was like, man, this how we're going to end this? I ain't going to lie to y'all. I enjoyed every piece of the daggone show. From Dikahn to Joan, who surprised me. The whole situation with River being locked up inside of the trailer. How's that going to end for him? Because now when they find out that he was trying to feed old boy a sandwich, which he did leave in the daggone trailer, because I did not see anybody pick up a sandwich in the trailer. I mean, unless they cleaned it out since then. But, I mean, who else would have been off in there and did not notice that people were missing, right? So with that being said, man, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shiznit that's going down. I will talk to y'all tomorrow night. Same place, same channel, man. Peace.